release some greenhouse gases. I'm obviously a stranger to online controversy. It's not something I often do. But now, the mainstream press is commenting on the fact that I was informing Greta that my very extensive car collection with internal combustion engines, which run on dead dinosaurs, have an enormous emission profile. And she replied by telling me her own email address. Greta's email address is, I have small dick energy. Why would that be your own email address, Greta? Strange. I mean, obviously I don't want to assume her gender. It's 50-50, but it is what it is. I'm not actually mad at Greta. Please bring me pizza and make sure that these boxes are not recycled. Thank you. So I'm not actually mad at Greta, right? Because she doesn't realize she's been programmed. She doesn't realize she's a slave of the Matrix. She thinks she's doing good.
That was, of course, the infamous video of Andrew Tate responding to Greta Thunberg. Shortly thereafter, he was arrested in Romania, and then there was the rumor that it was because of the video, although we later learned that was not actually true. He now says he is facing inhumane conditions while being held pre-trial in Romanian jail. According to the New York Post, fans recently received an email message from the self-described toxic masculinity king. Tate writes, quote, "They are trying to break me, thrown inside a cell without light. Cockroaches, lice, and bed bugs are my only friends at night. When the guards bring me to and from the courtroom, I stay absolutely respectful. They try to pour hatred into my heart." Although he does also acquit the guards. I pulled up this message he wrote where he says that the guards, they agree with him. They think they've told him they know he's innocent. Mm-hmm. They know it's unjust, and they see I will never break, and they respect my resolve. Such is the way of Wudan.
Fascinating stuff there.
So he was supposed to be, his time in jail was extended another 30 days. He was not given bail. I would gather that they thought he was a significant flight risk.
Yeah, I mean, look, he says he moved to Romania
to avoid charges.
Because the rape charges, it was easier to avoid rape charges there. There was a video, we played it last week on the show, of him talking about his behavior toward women, which some people felt like were grounds for an earlier arrest, but the authorities at that point said it wasn't enough. I think those were British authorities at that point who said it wasn't enough. I
saw a lot of scrutiny about whether that was actually him on that call.
Yeah.
Do we know that for certain? I don't know.
I mean, the courts will say. I think that part of the issue is that his fan base is extremely loyal, and they haven't necessarily been engaging, I think, with the facts and substance of the allegations as they've come out in a way that makes them especially credible. Of course, who knows anything, but I wouldn't necessarily take the arguments being made by a lot of his fans at face value. It's worth remembering that so much of what we know about him is through his own disclosures. This is from a recent NBC report, which says, in podcast appearances, news interviews, and social media posts since 2021, Tate said that he employed women to make money for him by performing in webcam pornography, controlled their behavior, and evaded law enforcement. He also advertised content sold to teach people about how they can replicate his business model. Tate and his brother told the Mirror in a June 2022 interview that they ran a, quote, total scam business in Romania that used cam models to lure men into sending them money. Additionally, he once... in addition to the scam stuff, he once boasted on his website that he lured women in by getting them to fall in love with him, and that he once broke a woman's jaw in a bar fight and, quote, got away with it.
Yeah, I mean, and what you're describing, we've gotten into this several times when we discussed this. You're describing some really bad things, some potentially criminal things for sure, if they're proven. It could, it is disgusting to boast about having hit a woman, but maybe that's his persona and he's just saying that he did that. If he actually did it, that would be a crime. That would be assault. But nothing that you described actually sounds like sex trafficking to me. It sounds like it could be illegal, especially the con with the business, taking people's money for false purposes, manipulating women, being very creepy, assault, maybe sexual assault. It doesn't sound to me like he necessarily forced people to engage. But maybe he did. Maybe they have evidence that he did. But
I think the issue is whether or not it's sex trafficking. The issue is whether he fraudulently induced these women to create explicit content for him that he profited from because he misled them into believing that they were in a relationship, and then also lured them away from their homes, made them financially dependent on him, perhaps also abused them, and as a consequence, was able to exploit them for profit.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's sex trafficking or not. I'm not a criminal prosecutor.
It sounds like a cult. Why I interrupted you? I'm sorry.
No, I'm not a criminal prosecutor, but it seems to me that there is a lot in there that could be considered to be legal.
Well, it sounds to me a lot like cult sort of behavior. You know, people fall under the sway of a charismatic, the cult figure, and you think, how could people fall? How can we get them out? But what they're doing is not.
Well, the cult leaders go to jail all the time. I don't know if you followed the whole NXIVM scandal, but people involved went to jail because it's not just I'm standing there being charismatic and people want to pay me money to hear me talk. You know, Tim Robbins isn't in jail. The issue is that these people, they extract money for promised goods that are not delivered. They take over people's bank accounts. They commit all kinds of actual fraud, and that's what they end up going down over. So we'll see this. It seems by his own admission that his business model is to fraudulently induce women to create free pornographic content for him that he profits from by pretending that he is in a relationship with them. And we'll see if anything happens, if there are any consequences for that kind of behavior. I mean, it does seem like that this stuff is just the tip of the iceberg. He's made a lot of money. To his point, he has many, many cars with many gaseous emissions. That have now been confiscated, and he paid for that with money from this enterprise. So there's
his views he gets massive views on social media. Easy to imagine him monetizing that very successfully. He's a celeb reality TV star type person, and then you could see how what he was doing would be lucrative and again potentially illegal, certainly scammy. I think he's a con artist regardless. But I don't know. I wonder if they're going to have a harder time pinning something on him than we're all being led to believe. I really do.
Yeah, look, like I said, there was apparently an argument that the police should have moved in earlier when that tape first surfaced, and the decision was made at that point to hold off because there wasn't enough. So I would presume that the fact that they moved in now is because they have more. Like, I don't think that this doesn't seem like this was an impulsive decision. And to your point, it wasn't because of Greta Thunberg either. That just happens to have been a coincidence that happened at the same time. So look, again, I don't know. Nobody knows. But what we do know is that this is someone who has bragged about his own bad behavior. Again, I hear your point. It could just all be performative. But even the choice to performatively brag about this kind of behavior is not something that a lot of people support. And there's been an interesting conversation that's emerged around this about why it is that this particular kind of persona is so attractive to young men right now.
Right, we've been trying to understand that. The discussion of his jail conditions is interesting. I mean, being in prison is terrible. It's awful. It's I found this interesting when the January 6th the people who went into the Capitol, they got put in prison, and they're describing these horrible, and it is horrible. It's horrible to be held in solitary confinement as they wait trial for months and months and months, even if indeed they're guilty of trespassing or something worse. It's no matter what you are, it's you deserve a speedy trial, and then if you're found guilty, you have to go to prison, and you shouldn't languish in unbearable conditions while you're awaiting that. And I think the mainstream press kind of had these bad guys, these Trump guys, they're getting what they deserve. And look, they, like anyone else, like Andrew Tate, deserve your day in court. And if you're guilty, you're guilty. Yeah, these conditions are horrible. The consequence of committing a crime is to be restrained, not to be tortured, not to be raped. So I certainly don't think that anybody should have expressed glee at especially difficult conditions. However, I think it is worthwhile to note the hypocrisy of folks who don't care about bail reform, who don't care about the condition of prisoners because they think it's for other people, a class of people that they don't see themselves as a part of, suddenly being in the prison system and suddenly having concerns about it. I do think it's worth pointing out. Yeah, I think that's fair. You're right, but you're also a big hypocrite. I think that's fair. Yeah. Well, tomorrow on Rising, Marianne Williamson will join us, and we're going to ask her about the exploratory committee she's convened to look at a potential 2024 run for president. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss any content. And for those of you who like to listen while on the go, we are now available anywhere you listen to podcasts. See you tomorrow. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.